What's up? I'm the Pillbug, and welcome back to the Walking Time Machine. I am very nervous to get into this because you remember last time how Whiskey's crystal was starting to crack with purple ooze, her eyes were starting to fade in color. Well, now we're going to Biskit's perspective as he's going to talk to all of the dads. And you remember how I said that y'all weren't ready for this in the last episode? Well, buckle up, because I'm not ready either. I'm not ready to revisit this. I'm very nervous. Let me just adjust the mic here real fast. Okay. Face yourself, Elle. Biskit made his way into the ship's main room. Hey, Gary! Oh my god! I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The caffeine I had earlier is not helping the situation here. I'm so sorry. Hey, Gary! Avocado! Oh, hey, Biskit. Where's Whiskey? She's with little Avocado. Doing what? I don't know. But he didn't look happy. Biskit shrugged and climbed up onto the table where Avocado and Gary were sitting. Avocado sent an unsure look at Gary's way, and he just shrugged as well, but nervously. Rightfully so. I'll ask him about it later. What are you doing here, Biskit? Oh, I just thought we could all hang out. You know, just us dads. Dads! Ugh. God, I can't, I don't know what's going on with my Biskit voice today. I was doing so well in the other episodes. He sat down in front of the two of them, crossing his legs innocently and making himself comfortable on the surface of the table. Oh, God. Dads, please, I'd hardly consider you a dad. And why is that? You hid your supposed daughter from us for how long? Mm-hmm. And you did keep her in that closet. For the last... Blinking. Okay. At least there's some comedic levity to lighten up the situation. At least there's that. For the last blinking time, I did not keep her locked up in that closet. She has powers. What? Well, she can transport through time and space, duh. You're lying. How? Ever heard of this thing called a time shard? Gary and Avocado shared a look, and Gary answered, yeah, little Avocado got stuck in one once. When you were dead, Avocado. She's got one inside of her body, which activates anytime someone touches it. Cool, right? And she's with little Avocado right now? Well, yeah. Avocado got up quickly, slamming his hands on the desk as his chair moved backwards. What are we going... Shit. What are we doing sitting around? She's dangerous. Hold your horses, bucko. My daughter is not dangerous. Biskit stood up on the table himself, fur bristling in offense. He stepped closer to Avocado and pointed a dangerously aggressive finger in his direction, poking him as he went on. I'll have you know, I have ways of making sure she's safe. Good to note you at least know something about parenting. Says you. Biskit and Avocado shared a glare so deadly that Gary had to force himself into the interaction and neutralize it. Oh, God. What are your ways then, Biskit? I've got a tracker on her cloak, so I know when and where she is at all times. Here, I'll show ya. He's not gonna be happy. Oh, God. He reached into his pocket and fiddled around a bit, pulling out a little screen with a flashing light on it and holding it towards Gary confidently. See? All good! A little light on the screen flashed green and Gary calmed. He assumed that meant she was safe. He didn't have much else to go off of, as the writing on the screen seemed to be somewhat only Biskit could decode. Something only a Biskit could decode. Avocado walked around behind Gary's chair and peeked at it too, waiting for Gary's certain confirmation. Yeah, flashing green. Wait, flashing green? That's not good! Biskit's ears folded back and his eyes widened, and suddenly Gary and Avocado became confused. No! That's bad? Very bad! He looked closely at the screen, fiddling around a little as he tried to read and decode his own language to figure out where she was exactly. And that's bad. Why? Biskit turned and looked at them, dead in the eyes, looking nothing but fear and dread in his expression that made Gary's skin crawl. An appropriate reaction for the situation, I must say. Oh, God. Sorry, just that chill down my spine. She's not on the ship! And she's hurt! What about little Kato? You build your own frickin' tracker for your own kid! He didn't say frickin', but it felt appropriate. We have to search the ship! She wouldn't sneak out without telling me! And we have to make sure little Kato's not with her. For once, in shared fear for the safety of their children, Avocado and Biskit nodded in agreement at each other before Biskit jumped off the table and the two raced out the doors. Why does a green light always have to mean bad? He raced off after them. Again, at least there's some comedic levity to... At least. Is he gonna load? Oh, I have to click again. This isn't good. This isn't good. This is not good. I'm scared. Load faster, damn you! Come on! We don't have all day. It all made so much sense. She couldn't eat, and the shard was in the place of where most of her organs would be operating. In some weird, twisted way, the shard was probably powering her every move. There's no way she would have been able to survive a stab right through the stomach normally. That was probably the only thing keeping her alive. Whiskey, come on! This isn't fun anymore! He shook her a little, and her eyes flickered slowly, drooping, but looked up to meet his gaze. He breathed thankfully. Whiskey, are you okay? What do we do? She said nothing back, and her eyes closed shut again. No, here, Whiskey, think of the ship. Think of all the halls and your room and Biskit. Her eyes slowly opened again at the mention of her father, and she ever so slightly nodded her head. Little Kato looked down at her shard, cracked and bleeding, and was afraid to touch it again. Not that I blame him. At this point, with the amount of damage he's taken already, What if it killed? Yes, exactly! What if it killed her? What if it killed her? I mean, I know the results, but I don't blame him for being scared of it killing her. She was still breathing. The shard wasn't completely shattered. It would be their only way home. And if things did turn out for the worst, then little Kato wanted her to be with Biskit at the very least. Good decision. Good decision. Please be okay. He tried to slowly scoop her body up into his arms, or at least onto his lap, as he used his other free hand to touch her shard. He leaned into her with his eyes shut, hoping that keeping close to her would make her feel better somehow. They were on the ship again, and little Kato smiled in relief that they had both made it. He looked down at Whiskey, and panic hit his entire body at lightning speed. She was clearly more conscious this time, but it seemed like a curse. Her face was weakly screwed up in pain, and her veins were faintly glowing in an on and off motion under her fur. Oh no. More of her purple glowy blood dripped out from the cracks of her shard. He had to get her to the medbay. It's gonna be okay. I'll get you to the medical room, okay? Hugh will know what to do. He tried scooping more of her up into his arms gently, covering him in her blood in the process and making her wince more. He dropped her cloak, not bothering to try and pick it up at that moment. Sorry. Carrying her was hard considering she was slightly taller than him, but he was thankful that she was fairly light in weight. Still though, the adrenaline rushing through him wasn't enough to save him from becoming breathless fast. He walked down the ship's halls with great urgency, losing sight of where he was multiple times when he saw Gary, Avocado, and Biskit spot him and run towards him. He didn't know whether to be scared or relieved. Why not both? There you are. What did you do? Yep, this is what I was scared of. Little Kato winced at the angry, panicking Biskit's voice as he avoided meeting his eyes. What the hell did you do? She's still breathing. Little Kato was trying to get her to the medbay. Biskit came closer to the two of them, touching a paw to the side of Whiskey's body. She didn't move, not even to try and look at him. Her eyes were still shut and she was mumbling with pain. What is wrong with you? He began yelling at little Kato again, and at some point it stopped. Little Kato could still see Biskit yelling at him, but he was so weighed down by the feeling of guilt that he toned it out.
Gary! Avocado! What are you doing? Stop standing around and help her!
Oh, God. Little Kato felt the weight of her lift off from her arms, but all he could do was stare. He shook his head quickly and followed after them, regaining consciousness after the dire seriousness of the situation hit him. They raced to the medbay, and Little Kato trailed behind them, wrapping his arms around his stomach as if that was all he needed to protect him from Biskit's wrath. No, it wasn't. They placed her on the medbay's bed, and Biskit tried to come closer to her, only after Avocado grabbed him and picked him up, pulling him away.
Let me go, Avocado! I need to be with her!
Biskit, she must stay there uninterrupted for me to assess her current state.
Fine, whatever! Just hurry up!
Oh God, I'm spitting. Avocado dropped Biskit, and the four of them watched apprehensively as a hologram appeared, showing Whiskey's body structure as Hugh scanned her, and explained what was happening. Okay. You breathe. It's fine. Okay. It appears that the shard in her body is cracking.
Lucky guess, Hugh. I've seen this before. I know.
Far deeper than the eye can see. God. The hologram showed that the cracks in her shard went beyond the shard, reaching up through more of her center body. She is also losing blood rapidly. It doesn't look good. Can we stop her from bleeding?
We can't touch the shard. She was like this when I found her. I tried.
Well, what do we do then?
She's healed over time. That shard has the power to fix her. So long as she stays there and doesn't teleport again.
Biskit turned to Little Kato angrily.
Then she'll be fine.
Are you sure this wasn't her idea?
You're asking me to question my own daughter's morals? Why don't you question your own?
Little Kato, what were you thinking? Little Kato didn't speak back. He just stared at them wordlessly. He didn't know this would happen. He didn't know she had a limit. He didn't mean to hurt her.
Exactly. And you tried to tell me this was Whiskey's fault.
Little Kato avoided Biskit's face, looking behind him and Whiskey, who was breathing slowly. Her eyes began to open gently, and Little Kato's heart quickened. Biskit followed Little Kato's gaze, confused, until he saw that her eyes were open.
Whiskey! Oh, Whiskey, are you okay?
He stood on his toes to be able to see above the bed, watching her weak smile.
I know, I shouldn't have let you out of my sight. You promised this kind of thing wouldn't happen again. I promised. I'm sorry. I'll never let you out of my sight ever again after this, okay? Double promise this time. Triple promise.
Whiskey's smile dissolved as she turned her eyes to look at Little Kato, but she wasn't mad. It was almost as if she wished she could speak to make things right. Suddenly, everybody else on the ship rushed into the room. Oh yeah, I forgot Quinn and, what was her name? Was it Carol? I forget the name of Gary's mom. God, I'm gonna have to do voices for them. I know, as far as I remember, they were just in this one scene, but again, doing voices wrong for any character for me is just really embarrassing. What happened?
You heard yelling. It sounded intense.
Oh yeah, Kevin, hi. All three of them stopped and laid their eyes on Whiskey, who was visibly in pain once again. Wow, is she dying? Kevin!
No!
Oh yeah, and Cheryl. Cheryl, that's her name. Then what's she doing on that bed?
Little Kato nearly got her killed. Nearly. She's not gonna die. Really?
He circled around the side of where Whiskey lay and nudged her a few times before Biskit shoot it him off. Fucking hell, Kevin.
She looks pretty gonna die to me.
Guilt flooded Little Kato's body once again, and he realized Kevin was right. He didn't want to think out loud, but she really didn't look good. Look, Kevin, get out of here.
Okay.
Kevin left the room in a hurry. What happened doesn't matter. What it does is that she's here and recovering, just...
No, but...
No, that's scary. Nobody bother her until she's healed.
What do you mean what happened doesn't matter?
Right now, we'll handle it. You just need to keep an eye on her, okay? Biskit grumbled a little, but thought the better of speaking up again and bit his tongue. He pulled a chair over from the side of the room and rolled it over beside her, pulling it until it was lower so that he could be at her height. Barry went over to Quinn and Cheryl and started talking in hushed voices. Avocado and Little Kato shared a look before Avocado went to join them, and Little Kato was left to decide where to go.
What are you doing over there?
I want to make sure she gets better. so I can make it up to her. He pulled another chair from the other side of the room. Do you mind if I sit? Biskit seemed to contemplate for a moment before shaking his head a little and turning back to Whiskey, fiddling with her hair gently. Little Kato could feel the boiling hatred coming from Biskit, but he'd rather deal with that than stay with Whiskey than just leave like nothing happened. At the end of the day, it was his fault if he hadn't wanted to see his parents so bad. Eventually, one by one, the others left the room until it was just Whiskey, Biskit, and Little Kato in the room alone. Hours went by, but neither of them really wanted to say anything. Little Kato desperately wanted to explain to Biskit what had happened, but it didn't feel right putting blame on Whiskey while she was dying. Oh no. It had been hours, and the two of them were getting tired. Biskit had, unwillingly, dozed off, gently snoring on the chair a little lengths away from Whiskey. Little Kato couldn't sleep with a clear mind, feeling terrible for allowing something like this to happen, but he felt his own eyes drooping when he heard a soft whisper. Little Kato? Whiskey? Don't talk if it hurts. I'm not going anywhere. You can tell me later. He was thankful that she was able to talk. It was a sign of improvement. But she still looked like she was in pain. The shard hadn't stopped dimming and flashing. If she teleported once more, he looked at the shard. It would surely kill her. I'm fine if I whisper. You didn't tell me your powers had a limit. You nearly died. Hey, bro! I know. I would have told you when it started cracking, but I didn't want to ruin our friendship. It's the first one I've ever had. Whiskey, you're so stupid. Little Kato, I would punch you in the face if I could. Why would that ruin our friendship? Because we wouldn't be able to go to places like we always do. What's wrong with here? Nothing. I just didn't want to ruin the fun. Or something. You're right. I'm so stupid. You are, Whiskey. You're so much more than just your ability to go back in time. Stop calling her stupid, man! You know that, right? Maybe. I know I am in my dad's mind, but I can't tell what other people think of me. I wish I could. I'm just so bad at people. When did it start cracking? Days before we went to the cooldown spot. Whiskey. If the cost of having fun days, going to all sorts of places and times was losing you, I wouldn't have wanted it. It's been nice having someone to have fun with again. Ever since we lost Fox and Ash. I don't know, it's just been nice to have a sibling again. I can't lose you too. We need you. Little Kato looked beside him and Biskit, whose ears flickered as he breathed gently sleeping. He needs you. Whiskey moved her head slightly to look at Biskit, and her gaze softened with regret. How'd you meet him? The question seemed to surprise her, and fair enough, it was a little impulsive, but he was curious. There was so much love for each other packed inside of them. After I got stabbed with a shard, it transported me somewhere. I don't know where. Messed with my body, too. Oh yeah, you did look younger when you were stabbed. I guess I just didn't think about it. I was lost for I don't know how long. In so many different places. I had no idea what was happening. Or what my powers were. Eventually my shard gave out on Earth. It was like this, but... She stopped trying to carefully choose her words, until ultimately deciding on one. Not as bad. Sorry, I tried. No, it's okay. Go on. At that point, I had given up, I think. I don't know who I was or where I was meant to be. Didn't know my own name. My parents. My home.
So, I cried. It was the only thing I knew how to do.
She choked up a little, as if recalling the feelings of hopelessness she once felt, and she smiled at her as her eyes shone with gratitude.
Then he found me. I was terrified. I didn't have any memories of anyone else besides the people who tried to kill me. But he was patient.
Biskit? Patient?
I know. Someone like him. You won't believe it. He talked to me gently and quietly.
No way!
Yes way. Until I trusted him. He took my hand and we went back home. He showed me to Kevin, and it was a few days before I even spoke. But I could tell we weren't like the people who hurt me. And now I'm here.
How long ago was this?
You're asking me?
They laughed quietly.
It was a while before Earth got sucked into final space, I think. So I'm happy with the time we spent there. With Kevin.
Yeah. He rested his cheek on the bed beside her, looked over at her face as they talked, but getting comfortable himself. I'm sorry about that, by the way.
Nothing to be sorry for.
Little Kato decided against telling her that it was technically their fault Kevin was dead. How are you feeling?
Okay enough, I think. You can go if you want.
No, the least I can do is stay here until you get better. It is my fault.
But I agreed.
Shh. I don't know how you're going to be able to tell Biskit you went against his guidance. Let me take it. She didn't argue, and their conversation came to a close. Hearing Whiskey talk again and thinking about the love Biskit had for his found daughter comforted little Kato, and soon enough, with his heart full and warm, he drifted off into sleep. So, how are y'all? Are y'all doing okay after that emotional roller coaster? Being perfectly honest, I could barely look at Biskit's sprite during that scene, then and now. Just gods. Lakato woke slowly a few hours later, not paying too much mind to the lack of body heat that was previously provided by Whiskey. He rubbed his eyes slowly, wondering when he dozed off, and he looked at Biskit, who was still asleep. Wondering if Biskit was asleep now, too, he turned to look at her, and his heart stopped. Oh, yeah! Yes. Yeah, no, it gets worse. Just, oh, fuck, I put my pop filter. It gets worse. Whiskey? She wasn't there. The only thing that remained on the bed was a few thick purple stains where her stomach was bleeding earlier. He got up quickly and searched the room, not knowing why she would be hiding from them, but hoping his first fear wasn't the truth. Whiskey! Little Kato moved over to Biskit and shook him awake, panicking.
Huh? What is it?
Biskit! Whiskey's gone!
What? She couldn't...
He got up and pushed little Kato off of him, standing on his chair as he looked down at the bed where Whiskey formerly lay. Had she died? Her body would still be there, wouldn't it?
Where did she go? She teleported again.
Biskit looked immediately to the back of his chair where Whiskey's cloak still lay from when they had to take it off of her. He turned to little Kato with genuine fear in his eyes, taking the cloak in his hands and checking the tracker with his other hand. It was neutral, not flashing, nothing. The cloak hadn't moved. He had no way to track her.
She's not gonna make it.
Yep. All it gets worse, folks. Oh, hi, Whiskey. Whiskey shut her eyes as her entire body tingled with unbearable pain, the purple light from her shard nearly blinding her. She had to get a clear answer. As she had talked with little Kato before, she hadn't felt much better and feared the worst, so why not check herself? Did she make it? Oof. She landed upright on the ground of a planet she hadn't seen before, when she stumbled and lost her balance, hitting the dusty floor in pain. She felt blood seep out of the cracks further, but she looked up. She noticed. My God, Whiskey! What? Over here! Ah. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Two familiar bodies ran up to her and she could barely make them out and her gaze became blurry. One of them was Little Kato and the other... Hey, I'm here. Hold still. Whiskey wished she could crack a joke about how she couldn't bear to move regardless, but didn't, wincing as she felt a sharp poke in her side and saw the familiar person pulling a long needle out of her. Oh, is that why you carry that needle around, Whiskey? Sure is. Hey! Good to see you, mate! I just noticed the Amogus on your fanny pack. God damn it! I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. I need some comedic levity for this situation. Deal with it. Let's get her back to the ship. Whiskey let her eyes fall shut and body go numb at the future versions of herself, and Little Kato hoisted her up and carried her towards the ship. As I can't read, she had made it. I'm debating whether or not I should stop here. I mean, it's been like almost 30 minutes, so I guess I could stop here for the tension, but at the same time, I don't know how much of this was actually me preparing everything and getting everything set up, because I had to emotionally prep myself for this scene. So I don't know how much of this was just me like getting myself primed for this, or how much was this actually me recording this scene. So, all right, actually, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna flip a coin. I can't decide. Oh god, that is a lot of notifications from TikTok. Alright, heads, I continue. Tails, I end the episode here. Alright, heads, I continue. It had been days since Whiskey went missing. Little Kato didn't know how many. He had spent all his time in the medbay waiting for her to come back, every second becoming closer to accepting the truth. She was probably dead. Gary brought him meals, but he couldn't finish one of them without the feeling of guilt in his stomach blocking any food from remaining there. He'd decided that it was no use staying in the medbay. For the first time in ages, he got up and left, walking slowly towards the head of the ship where the others were. Hey, Little Kato. How are you, bud? Has anyone seen Biskit? No, we haven't. I'm sorry, Quinn. I'm really sorry. Biskit had disappeared purposefully after Whiskey had. The others said he went to his room without a second word and hadn't opened up since. Hugh had been keeping an eye on him, but had told them he didn't look good. Biskit lashed out at him when he realized he was being watched. Great. I'm just gonna sit over here. He walked to the furthest corner of the room, stood back against the wall, and slid onto the floor, wrapping his arms around his knees and burying his face in them. This was all his fault. He sat silently scolding himself for being so selfish when he felt the presence of another body leaning against the wall beside him, and he peeked his face out of his arms slightly to look at who it was. How are you feeling? Terrible. Thanks for asking. You think you killed her, don't you? What else would I describe this feeling as? Biskit's shutting himself off. The ship's been dead silent. Nobody's happy. Whiskey's been gone for days when she can easily come and go whenever and wherever she pleases. If she was okay, we'd know by now. Biskit would be happy again. I didn't want her to die. Describe what feeling? This feeling of guilt and helplessness weighing me down. Like this is all my fault. Everyone keeps saying that she's probably okay and that it's not my fault, but it's not true. If Biskit was showing his face, he'd be telling me the truth. And what's the truth? That she's dead and it's my fault. My friend who trusted me is dead because of me. I could have prevented it, but I didn't, because I was selfish and didn't pay enough attention. And now there's a father mourning the death of his kid, and everybody's smiling at me to make me feel better, but deep down they hate me for killing her. And... That you shouldn't be forgiven? Whatever punishment the universe decides to give you would be fair, and you deserve it. There's no way of fixing what you've done? Yeah, exactly. I really hope the mic isn't picking up my saliva. Sometimes my mouth gets a little dry, I tend to Swish some saliva in my mouth. I'm gonna shut up and just continue to read. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Little Kato ponders his words for a moment. I guess that's how you'd feel, isn't it? Well, that's a bit straightforward. How else would you like me to put it? There was silence for a moment, and then met eyes. Little Kato couldn't resist a light laugh, and Avocado followed. It became silent again after that, and an awkward longing hung in the air, like both of them wished things could go back to the way they were. But they couldn't. Not ever. You're right. All of the times by like a billion. You hate me. I know it, and I deserve it. You do. He felt a little bad for cutting Avocado off like that when he thought back to the memories of him and Whiskey visited before. Like, you feel bad for it, don't you? More than I could ever say. It's that feeling that chokes me up. Something I know I won't be able to fix. Ever. Little Kato looked to the side, considering Avocado's words and realizing that he had been describing pretty much exactly how he felt. But I still try. If it means anything. He pondered on the word again, analyzing everything Avocado said to him, considering it was the first time they had a normal, even conversation since the secret came out. Then he turned to Avocado and gave him a small smile, the first one he had given him since. It does. I'll try to. For Whiskey. Avocado returned the smile, and seemingly hopeful, with relief brewing in the depths of his gaze before he got up and slowly left Little Kato on his own again. And the dogs are barking, now of all times, god damn it. Whiskey's words rang in his head. Maybe you can see him as what he was. Whiskey was right about her death partly being her fault. Maybe the death of the king and queen weighed more on the situation than Avocado's actions alone. But they were still killers, both of them. Alright, okay. I think this is an appropriate place for me to end the episode here. Sorry you had to hear the dogs barking at the very end. I mean, I actually don't know if the mic picked that up, but assuming it did, I'm sorry. Just like with the saliva situation. God, I really should have stopped mentioning this goddamn saliva. Anyways, okay, thankfully, things are slightly lighter-hearted from here on out. I'm not saying by very, but it gets a little lighter-hearted. Things brighten up from here. But I'm gonna leave this episode here. Holy shit, we're getting close to the part where my footage cut. So I'm super excited. And from what I hear, Tweak seems to be enjoying this too, which, again, hi Tweak. I'm really glad you're enjoying this series for what it is. And I hope the rest of y'all are enjoying this too, because I'm really enjoying this. Like, my god. I say this every single time, but going back to this VN, even after seeing all of this once, like, it has not lost its luster. It's really fucking good. And I'm really excited to finally finish the story off for real this time. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you liked it, hit that like button down below, and I'll see you in the next episode of whatever the heck I make.